There's a spot in your eye where you can't see. Literally. A blind spot. It's where the optic nerve connects to your retina. No light receptors there. So there's a small area in your vision that's just blank. But you've probably never noticed it. Your brain fills in the gap. It makes up what should be there based on what's around it. So you walk around every day with a literal blind spot in your vision. And you don't even know it's there. Your mind works the same way. You have blind spots. Things about yourself you can't see. And your brain fills in the gap with assumptions. Today we're talking about these blind spots. What they are. Why we all have them. And why they're so dangerous. Let me start with a question. What are you bad at? Not okay at? Not learning? Actually bad at? What's your weakness? If you answered quickly, congratulations. You have some self-awareness. But most people struggle with this question. Because admitting weakness feels dangerous. It threatens our self-image. Our ego. Our sense of competence. So instead of seeing our weaknesses clearly, we develop blind spots. We simply don't see them. Psychologists have studied this for decades. And they've found something fascinating. The less competent you are at something, the less able you are to recognize your incompetence. This is called the Dunning-Kruger effect. Named after the psychologists who discovered it in 1999. They tested people on logic, grammar, and humor. Then asked them to rate their own performance. The people who scored in the bottom quarter thought they did way better than they actually did. They thought they were average or above average. But they weren't. They were terrible. And they had no idea. The researchers called this a dual burden. Not only were these people incompetent. They were too incompetent to realize they were incompetent. Their lack of skill prevented them from seeing their lack of skill. That's a blind spot. And here's the kicker. This applies to all of us. In different areas. At different times. You're confident about something you're actually not good at. You don't know that you don't know. And that ignorance feels like knowledge. Think about that. The areas where you're most confident might be the areas where you're most wrong. Because confidence and competence don't always match. Sometimes the most confident people are the least skilled. And the most skilled people doubt themselves. This is why blind spots are so dangerous. You can't see them. By definition. And your confidence makes you think you don't need to look. Let me give you another blind spot. Confirmation bias. This is the tendency to seek out information that confirms what you already believe. And ignore information that contradicts it. You believe you're a good listener. So you notice the times when people thank you for listening. And you forget the times when people said you interrupted them. You believe you're fair. So you see examples of your fairness. And you don't see examples of your bias. You believe you're right about something. So you find articles that agree with you. And dismiss articles that disagree. Confirmation bias is how we maintain our self-image. Even when that self-image is inaccurate. We're not lying. We genuinely believe we're seeing reality. But we're seeing a filtered version. A version that supports what we already think. Here's another blind spot. The fundamental attribution error. This is when you judge yourself by your intentions. But judge others by their actions. You're late to a meeting. You had a good reason. Traffic was bad. Something came up. You didn't mean to be late. Someone else is late. They're inconsiderate. They don't value other people's time. They're disrespectful. Same action. Different judgment. Because you know your intentions. You don't know theirs. This creates a massive blind spot. You think you're a good person who sometimes makes mistakes. But others are bad people who reveal their character through their actions. It's not fair. It's not accurate. But it's how most people think. Another blind spot. The bias blind spot. This is the tendency to see bias in others but not in yourself. To think you're more objective than you actually are. Everyone else has biases. They're influenced by their politics, their background, their emotions. But you see things clearly. You're rational. Objective. Except you're not. You have all the same biases. You just can't see them. Studies show this consistently. People recognize cognitive biases in others easily. But they can't see those same biases in themselves. We think we're the exception. We think we're above it. We think we see reality as it is. But we don't. We see reality through our own filters. Our own assumptions. Our own biases. And we don't even know it. Let me tell you about Maria. She's 41. Works as a manager. Smart. Capable. Confident. Maria prided herself on being open-minded. She valued diverse perspectives. She thought she listened well. But her team kept saying she wasn't open to feedback. That she dismissed ideas that weren't hers. That she didn't really listen. Maria was confused. That's not who she was. She listened. She considered other viewpoints. She wasn't closed-minded. She started paying closer attention. And she noticed something. When someone shared an idea that contradicted hers, her first instinct was to explain why it wouldn't work. She wasn't dismissing them. She was just pointing out the flaws. The practical problems. The reasons her way was better. But to her team, it felt like dismissal. Like she'd already decided. Like their input didn't matter. Maria had a blind spot. She thought she was being analytical. Helpful. Thorough. But she was actually being defensive. Closed. Unwilling to truly consider alternatives. She couldn't see it. Because her intention was good. And she judged herself by her intention. But others experienced her actions. And the impact was clear. She wasn't as open-minded as she thought. This is how blind spots work. You have a self-image. I'm open-minded. I'm a good listener. I'm fair. And your brain protects that self-image. It shows you evidence that supports it. It filters out evidence that contradicts it. So you genuinely believe you're open-minded. While behaving in closed-minded ways. And you don't see the contradiction. Here's another common blind spot. Overestimating how much you've changed. We tend to think we're very different from our past selves. We've grown. We've learned. We've evolved. And in some ways, we have. But in many ways, we haven't. The core patterns remain. The same triggers. The same reactions. The same blind spots. You think you're not defensive anymore. But you are. You think you've let go of that grudge. But you haven't. You think you've become more patient. But you're still impatient in the same situations. We overestimate growth because we want to believe we're improving. And our brain shows us evidence of improvement while hiding evidence of stagnation. Another blind spot. Not seeing how you come across to others. You think you're funny. Others think you're inappropriate. You think you're honest. Others think you're blunt. You think you're confident. Others think you're arrogant. You think you're thorough. Others think you're obsessive. The gap between your self-perception and how others perceive you. That gap is a blind spot. And it causes problems. Because you're operating based on your self-perception. While others are reacting based on their perception. So you're confused when people respond negatively. You didn't mean it that way. You were just being yourself. But intent doesn't erase impact. And if everyone else sees you one way and you see yourself differently, maybe their perception is closer to reality. Here's the hardest blind spot to accept. You might be the problem. In that relationship that ended. In that conflict at work. In that pattern that keeps repeating. You want to believe it was their fault. The other person. The circumstances. Bad luck. And maybe it was partly that. But maybe it was also you. Maybe your behavior contributed. Maybe your choices created the outcome. But you can't see it. Because seeing it would threaten your self-image. Your sense of being a good person. So your brain protects you. It creates a story where you're blameless. Where you're the victim. Where it's not your fault. And you believe that story. Completely. Because it fits your self-image. This is the most dangerous blind spot. When you can't see your own role in your problems, you can't fix them. You just keep creating the same situations. Blaming the same external factors. Wondering why nothing changes. So how do you see your blind spots? That's the challenge. Because you can't see them alone. First, pay attention to patterns. If the same thing keeps happening, it's probably not everyone else. It's probably you. Same type of conflict. Same type of ending. Same type of disappointment. Look for the common denominator. That's often you. Second, listen to feedback. Really listen. Without defending. Without explaining. Without dismissing. When someone says, "You did this," your instinct is to say, "No, I didn't," or "I didn't mean it that way." But just listen. Absorb it. Consider it. Maybe they're seeing something you can't. Third, ask trusted people. What do you see in me that I might not see in myself? What patterns do you notice? This is scary. Because you might not like the answer. But that's the point. You're trying to see blind spots. Things you can't see alone. Fourth, notice your strong reactions. When you feel defensive. When you feel attacked. When you feel misunderstood. Those feelings are signals. They point to blind spots. To areas where you're protecting something. Avoiding something. Hiding something. Fifth, question your certainty. When you're absolutely sure you're right. When you can't imagine another perspective. When you know your version is the truth. That certainty is often a blind spot. Because reality is complex. An absolute certainty usually means you're not seeing the full picture. Here's what Maria learned. Her blind spot wasn't that she was a terrible person. It was that she wasn't as open-minded as she thought. And once she saw it, she could work on it. She could catch herself. She could pause. She could actually consider other ideas. It didn't make her perfect. But it made her better. More aware. More honest. More effective. That's what seeing blind spots does. It doesn't destroy you. It frees you. Because you're not pretending anymore. You're not defending a false image. You're just being honest about who you are. And honesty is the foundation of growth. You can't change what you can't see. So look for your blind spots. Expect to find them. Because everyone has them. The question is not whether you have blind spots. The question is whether you're willing to look for them. And when you find them, don't despair. Don't beat yourself up. Just acknowledge them. Oh. I do that. I didn't see it before. But I see it now. That moment of recognition. That's where change becomes possible. In the next video, we'll talk about how to observe your thoughts. How to create distance between you and your patterns. But for now, just be curious. Where might you have blind spots? What might you not be seeing? Don't answer quickly. Sit with the question. Let it unsettle you a little. Because the things you're most certain about, the things you're most confident in, those might be exactly where your blind spots hide. And the only way to see them is to look. Really look. Even when it's uncomfortable. Especially when it's uncomfortable. I hope this video brought you something meaningful. If you find it helpful, please like and share it with someone who may need it. Subscribe if you would like to hear more stories like this. Wishing you a calm and peaceful day.